A curious case, Biden. Yes, Harris. No, the 2024 election results are in, and they've left us with more questions than answers. One of the biggest head-scratchers, why some of the same white Democrats who turned out for Joe Biden in 2020 seemed to stay home in 2024 when Kamala Harris was on the ticket. We're talking about voters who, just 4 years prior, were energized enough to vote against the previous administration. What happened? Did something fundamentally change in these voters? Or did something change about how they saw the Democratic Party? Tonight we're diving deep into this political puzzle. We'll examine the factors that might have contributed to this shift amongst white Democratic voters, from familiarity with the candidates to the weight of history, from policy positions to campaign strategies. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to unpack a whole lot of data and delve into the nuances of voter behavior. By the end, we're going to have a better understanding of the forces that shaped this election and what it means for the future of American politics. Let's get started. The Biden factor: familiarity and comfort. Let's start by stating the obvious. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, while running mates, are very different figures with distinct political histories. Biden, a longtime senator and former vice president, came with decades of experience and a certain comfort factor for many voters. He was a known entity, for better or for worse, and that familiarity can be a powerful force in politics. Think about it. Voters had seen Biden on the national stage for years. They knew his positions, his style, even his perceived flaws. This familiarity bred, well, if not always outright affection, then at least a sense of predictability. Harris, on the other hand, while certainly accomplished, was a newer face on the national scene. While some voters were excited by the prospect of a historic candidacy, others may not have felt the same level of connection with her that they did with Biden. This isn't to say Harris wasn't qualified or capable, but there's a certain weight that comes with decades in the public eye, a level of ingrained familiarity that's hard to replicate overnight. This isn't unusual in politics, by the way. Voters often gravitate towards what they know, especially when it comes to something as consequential as a presidential election. Policy positions, walking the tightrope. Another piece of this puzzle lies in the perceived ideological differences between Biden and Harris. Now, both are card-carrying Democrats, but within that big tent, there exists a spectrum of views. Biden, throughout his career, cultivated an image of moderation. He was the guy who could work across the aisle, appeal to centrists, and reassure voters who might be wary of drastic change. Harris, meanwhile, has been characterized by some as more progressive, particularly on issues like criminal justice reform and social safety nets. While this resonated with many on the left, it's possible that some moderate or centrist Democrats who were comfortable with Biden felt less aligned with Harris's perceived positions. Think about it. In a general election, candidates often have to walk a tightrope, appealing to their base while also trying to attract swing voters. It's a delicate balance, and any perceived shift in ideology can have a ripple effect on voter behavior. Again, this isn't about right or wrong, but about the reality of voter perception and how subtle differences in policy positions can influence choices in the voting booth. Chapter 3. The VP track. A history of hurdles. Let's zoom out for a second and consider the historical context. Vice presidents running for president often face an uphill battle. Sure, they inherit the benefits of incumbency, but they also carry the baggage of their predecessor's administration, fair or not. Think about it. If things are going great, the sitting president usually takes the credit. If things are going poorly, well, the VP is often left holding the bag. It's a tough position to be in, and it's something Harris had to contend with. Furthermore, Harris's candidacy was groundbreaking in many ways. As the first female and Black Asian candidate on a major party ticket, she shattered barriers and energized a diverse coalition of voters. However, this also meant navigating uncharted territory, facing both implicit and explicit biases that previous candidates may not have encountered. It's impossible to quantify the impact of these historical and social factors, but to ignore them would be to miss a crucial part of the story. Chapter 4. The Trump Effect. Motivation Matters. Let's rewind to 2020 for a moment. It wasn't just a presidential election, it was a referendum on Donald Trump. Many voters, including a significant number of Democrats, were driven to the polls not necessarily out of fervent support for Biden, but out of a desire to oust Trump. Think of it as a negative vote, motivated more by opposition to one candidate than unwavering support for the other. This anti-Trump sentiment was a powerful force, mobilizing voters who might not have otherwise participated. Fast forward to 2024. Trump is out of office, and while his policies and rhetoric may still resonate with some, the immediate urgency to vote against him has diminished. This isn't to say that voters were apathetic in 2024, but the stakes might have felt different, the need to vote less pressing, especially if they were generally satisfied with the direction of the country under a Biden administration. In other words, the intensity of the 2020 election, fueled in part by opposition to Trump, might have been difficult to replicate in 2024. Chapter 5. Messaging and strategy. A change in tune? Finally, let's talk about campaign strategy. Every election cycle brings its own set of challenges and opportunities, requiring candidates to tailor their messages and target specific voter groups. Biden's 2020 campaign was laser-focused on unity and a return to normalcy after the tumult of the Trump years. It was a message that resonated with a broad swath of voters, including those who might have been disillusioned with the political climate. Harris, in her own campaign, faced the challenge of differentiating herself while also maintaining continuity with the Biden administration. It's possible that any perceived shifts in messaging or strategy, even subtle ones, might have landed differently with certain voter groups, including some of those white Democrats who had previously voted for Biden. Remember, campaigns are constantly calibrating their approach, trying to strike the right chord with voters. It's a delicate dance, and even small missteps can have outsized consequences. The verdict: it's complicated, but isn't it always? So, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of the factors that might have contributed to some white Democrats who voted for Biden in 2020, staying home in 2024. From familiarity with the candidates to policy positions, from historical trends to campaign strategies, we've explored a range of possibilities. The truth is, there's no single, easy answer. Voter behavior is complex, influenced by a myriad of factors, both personal and political. What motivates one person to cast a ballot might not resonate with another, and what seems like a surefire strategy in one election cycle might fall flat in the next. But by digging into these nuances, by examining the data and considering the broader context, we gain a deeper understanding of the forces that shape our elections and, ultimately, our democracy. And that, my friends, is always a worthwhile endeavor.